Hey, you're listening to Metal Gear Mondays, and it's completely brought to you by listeners like you supporting us. So you should go to patreon.com/Metal Gear Mondays and consider supporting. Thanks.
This week on Metal Gear Mondays, it's just a box, and we're putting a bow on it.
Ladies, gentlemen, boys, girls, and children abducted by the Patriots? I don't know. Welcome to Metal Gear Mondays, the podcast where we cover the Metal Gear games top to bottom, inside and out, in chronological order, book club style fashion, roundtable discussion, round robin, Red Rover, send Sam right over. This week, I am always your host, Alessio Summerfield, and I am joined by Samuel Wright.
Mama, it's Papa. He's not breathing.
And
CPR.
Isaac Lim.
3 times the lady.
Very nice. It's my favorite number of ladies. All right. And
Just set a tone from the beginning.
this week we're actually going to be doing a wrap up on Metal Gear Solid 3, kind of in the same style that we've been doing MGS1 and MGS2. This is sort of the safe space for us to talk about our kind of post-mortem on the entire experience as a whole, whether we've played it before or have not, like Isaac, and just kind of talk about I don't know, just kind of be done with this game and to kind of prime the gravel for the road that we're going to be taking to the next game. So, so before we get into, I would like to kind of utilize this episode to talk about like fan theories or talk about like interpretations. But before we get into all of that, I want to take some time to just kind of hear you guys' thoughts on it. Sam, having played the game before, how long had it been before you played it for the show? Like, how long before?
I think I played through it 3 times, I think. And when did it come out? What year did this game come out?
I believe that it came out in 2005, but let me double check. We're going to pause for a second.
Because sure.
Well, I mean, we're
2004.
Okay.
Okay. So.
Hold on real quick. I wanted to double check something. Right out the gate, starting strong.
Yeah,
right.
Dog. Woo, woo.
Shoot the whoop.
Shoot the. All right, here we go. So the main game came out in 2004, but then the Subsistence re-release came out in 2006 in the United States. And the HD collection came out in 2011.
Okay. So I remember before this playing through the game about 3 times, and I think the last time I had played through it before this was right before Metal Gear Solid 4 came out, which was back in 2008. So it's been about 8 years since I played Metal Gear Solid 3.
Nice. Isaac,
how long has it been since you played it?
Let me see. So when did this game get released? I think it was 2000. Yeah.
Well, cool. For me, it had been probably since like same as Sam. I'd say like 2008, 2009. Since I played it. I don't remember ever playing MGS3 after 4 came out. So maybe 2008 was the last time I played it. But yeah, I don't know. It felt pretty fresh to me this time around. But
Absolutely.
Isaac, I'm super curious. Since there's so many new systems and the plot is arguably the least dense in the series, how did you feel about this? Do you feel like somebody new to the series could come and play this game and it would stand on its own? Did you feel like it pulled a lot from past games? How did you feel?
Yeah, for me personally, I felt like it could have been played without any prior knowledge. I mean, you're gonna miss out on a lot of the little details and whatnot, but I think they did a good job of trying to rope in new fans and whatnot with the release. I didn't really struggle. Like, all right, 2 was like really just kind of really crazy. Just gonna throw it out there. It was a little crazy for me.
Did you expect this to build on?
I thought it was going
craziness?
to. Yeah, but I guess it's kind of cool that they took a step back because it was simpler times, sort of, kind of, back in the Cold War days when they didn't have crazy technology, just little walkie-talkies and whatnot. So I thought it was really cool.
Uphill both ways to
That's
finish
right.
the sneaking mission
In the snow.
barefoot.
You guys.
You guys.
How did you find it more difficult, less difficult? I mean, just tell us everything, Isaac. What
Tell
did
you
it feel
everything?
like? What did it play like?
All right.
How was the game feel, Isaac?
All right, here's personally speaking from a guy that doesn't play too many video games. I kind of liked it better. It felt like it was less constrictive. Like 1 and 2 were sort of, I mean, in their own cool way, constrictive, and it kind of was like, here, you can do it like this or like this, but you can't. You don't have like complete control of what you can and can't do. And I thought 3 kind of made it more free, which was cool. But all right, so I feel like I'm rambling. Hey, stop me if I'm rambling, all right? Just so you know, I'm gonna ramble a lot.
I need to hear your thought.
My unedited train of thought.
Yeah,
Here goes.
You're literally every part of your thought process needs to be verbalized on paper.
Pen and paper right here. When I first,
ears.
I thought the hardest part that I was gonna have to get used to was the radar not being there, because 1 and 2 I could just like look down and see everybody in the vicinity, and I thought it was gonna be a huge setback in terms of playability for me. But I mean, you get used to it and whatnot, and it was actually a better experience. I actually looked at the landscape more. I feel like in 1 and 2 I would be looking at the radar a lot, and the little triangles and dots got my attention probably 40% of the time. So that was cool. And then the whole camouflage, you got an infinite backpack of camouflage. That was interesting, to say the least. So yeah.
Wonderful.
Have we punished Isaac enough?
Yeah, I think we can pull him out of his tailspin. Yeah, so I almost followed that up with Captain Jack, but never mind. Yeah, so like, I don't know, Metal Gear Solid 3 is a game that when I first played it, I really liked it. But for whatever reason, the plot, I don't know, it's weird. My first takeaway was like, this is great, but the plot is very surface level.
Yeah.
And we're going to talk about a school of thought that a lot of people seem to have online, that it is not as surface level as you might think. But I think regardless, there was at least a noticeable effort to streamline the game and make it a little bit more spy thriller and less meta after 2.
Yeah. Well, you can very much see like the influence of things like James Bond on it and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
But I also think it has the added benefit of being a prequel to the whole thing. So I feel like it was almost necessary. If you're going to do a prequel, you almost kind of have to reduce the amount of meta narrative bullshit that kind of built up along the series as it went on.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting too. So Kojima was born in like the year that MGS3 takes place.
Yeah.
And in a lot of ways, the game is almost like a hyper realism take on the Cold War as seen through the eyes of Kojima, in a sense. I don't know. It's interesting. Like when people hate bash on MGS, saying that it's too auteur as to be kind of gross. I tend to get really defensive, and I'm like, no, there's a team of writers and there's a bunch of producers. It's not just Kojima. But then whenever we like wax philosophical and talk all romantic about it, I'm like, yeah, man, it's just Kojima. So it's hard to find like a stable footing between those two schools of thought. But I think, much like any good piece of media, there's like a mysticism to it whenever you think of it as like the vision of one person. You know what I mean? So it feels a little bit more, I don't know, it feels like less built by like a committee. Whenever, to be completely honest, I think MGS3 might have been the most kind of committee-driven game, because I think in a lot of ways Konami wasn't too happy with Kojima's shenanigans with MGS2, even though it sold so well. And it seems like they took a lot of stock in what people were saying about the plot being kind of indecipherable. And so in a lot of ways, and we can kind of talk about it, a lot of people tend to speculate that MGS3 is kind of an analog to Kojima's relationship with Metal Gear and Kojima's relationship with Konami, and just kind of... And that's that school of thought. So if you are going to get very Kojima-centric about this game, that is what a lot of people sort of infer from the events within the game. But we can also talk about the other school of thought, which is like the not Kojima-driven ship. So I don't know. I'm curious with you guys. I mean, were there any, like, as you were playing through the game, especially Sam, since this wasn't your first time, were there any, like, I don't know, like, flags that maybe like certain things were representative, or flags that maybe certain things were a little less on the nose than they might seem? I mean, did you get the feeling that there was a little bit more going on, or did it just feel straight surface level to you?
I don't know. It was a little. I felt like it was a little bit more surface level personally. I didn't really notice a lot of that stuff when I was playing through the game. And I was mostly kind of focusing on like the symbolism behind like things like the unit and everything like that, and how they the Cobras, and how they represented like the whole stages of death thing that we've been talking about on and off since we started doing the season. And other things of that nature. It's I don't know if I really noticed a whole kind of like parallel between Konami and Kojima's relationship at that much, but I also could have not been paying attention that well, or what.
I think it's a little tinfoil hat, some of it. So I mean, it makes sense that it wouldn't be so obvious, but I think that. And I mean, whether you choose to believe it or not, it's totally up to you. I definitely would be interested to hear what some of the listeners think about Metal Gear Solid 3, and if we are so far up our own asses we can't see anything by the time I finish this episode. But I will say this. So, Isaac, just to give you a little bit of background, I don't know if we covered this originally. So, MGS3 began development. So, it's sort of a tradition, a time-honored Metal Gear tradition, that after every game is completed, Kojima says he's done. And so this time, Kojima was actually pretty adamant about being done after 2. And so this time they actually did have a different director and an entire team work on MGS3 for a while. And what ended up happening was that Kojima was supposed to kind of like oversee it to make sure everything was fine. And apparently he was very hands-off early on. And whenever he checked up on the team, I believe it was like within 6 months or so of development, the way that it was sort of described was that they weren't really going anywhere, and that nothing had really been done, and that it was a little off the rails. And so Kojima kind of stepped up and was like, get the fuck out of here. Like, I'm going to pick up where you guys left off and shape this into something else. Whether that was Kojima with his team or Kojima with a different staff or what, I'm not entirely sure what was going on sort of within the politics of the company at the time. But a lot of people speculate that that is why the game starts with like a false mission and then restarts in a sense. Is because sort of that analogy that like the game kind of starts off on one foot and then shit kind of goes off the rails a little bit, and then they have to like resend Snake in. A lot of people talk about how that's kind of representative of what was going on within the development of the game. Again, a lot of this shit is just like hindsight 2020 kind of like drawing parallels where there may not actually be, but I think that that's kind of a fun thing. The other thing I wanted to ask you guys, because this is kind of a big thing, and I know MGS2's wrap-up episode was definitely a lot of me just talking at you guys, so I want to try to ask you guys some questions. So at the end of at the end of MGS3, we get it kind of full blown in our face, but throughout the game, there's a lot of talk from the boss about duty and about whether you commit to your duty even if you think that it's the wrong thing to do. And so very obviously, I think especially in the wake of what's been going on with Konami right now, and especially sort of when we thought this was the end of the franchise, before 4 was announced, a lot of people kind of drew parallels between what the boss was saying and Kojima's own kind of personal relationship with the series. Because in a lot of ways it was like, well, Kojima wanted to be done after 2 and they wouldn't let him, or allegedly. And then Kojima also kind of, for all intents and purposes, wanted to continue down that path, but again was kind of narrowed into doing something a little bit more user-friendly and a little bit more audience-friendly.
Mm-hmm.
And so a lot of people kind of draw parallels between the boss saying that like she's going to do what's right even if it's not what she wants to do, to Kojima's kind of relationship with the series. Do you guys think that's complete horseshit, or can you see it, I guess?
Eesh. For me, that just hearing it is sort of a stretch. I don't know. I mean, maybe me coming in late to the game, I wasn't really aware of all that stuff going on when it was happening, and all the details. So, kind of seems like people are stretching, but I mean, it could totally be because Kojima is infamous for doing that sort of thing with his games. I don't know.
What do you think, Sam?
I don't know if it was the intention, but if one day Kojima did an interview and said, "Yeah, this is what I meant," I would not be surprised because I can see kind of the parallels.
Yeah. Well, he's also notorious for like never fucking answering straightforward questions about games.
Ever, like fucking ever. So, I wouldn't be surprised if that is what it was. But it could very well have been just like a commentary on the times, and that it just so happened to match up to his situation. Either way, but like I said, I see the parallels.
Right on. Yeah, there's So there's an article on MetaGearSolid.org called "The Philosopher's Legacy of Metal Gear Solid 3." Philosophers being a parenthetical. So how neat is that? And I wanted to read a snippet. We'll have it in the show notes.
I love parentheticals.
But I wanted to just read a little snippet from a couple different articles. We're not going to only read from this Metal Gear Solid one, but it's just worth noting. So it starts, Snake, like Kojima, doesn't know whether he should fight for what he believes in or complete his mission cold-heartedly like a mindless soldier. Whether to rebel against the expectations of the masses at the risk of destroying the series, or selling it out in the hopes of creating a better tomorrow and avoiding disaster. In order to save the series, he has to kill the part of it he loves, the message, unless he can find a way to do both, which seems to be impossible. The complexity of the situation is reflected in the relationship between not only the boss and Snake, but the Cobra unit as well. As he progresses through his mission, he must overcome pain, fear, and, parenthetical, sense of impending eternal void, fury, and sorrow. This is not only a metaphor for how Naked Snake must devour his emotions over the course of his mission, which is clever enough, but also for how Kojima must devour his personal feelings in order to finish his mission, giving the people what they want. After all, we're told that the reason for the mission being named Snake Eater was because he had to defeat the Cobra unit, with the implication being that he symbolically eats them and carries their emotion within himself as he continues onward. But yeah, I mean, even that is kind of wordplay. Snake Eater. This is Alessio speaking now, not the article. Snake Eater could be like Kojima eating Snake in a sense. So I don't know. I think that is a little out there. Honestly, part of me would like to believe that that's the case, just because I like it whenever the work kind of reflects the conditions in which it was made. But I don't honestly believe that that was the case. I think it just kind of lines up nice and neat after release. But yeah, so that being said, there's also a really, really good article on Gama Sutra called The Analysis, What Metal Gear Solid 3 Teaches Us About Hyper-Reality. And this actually, I think, in a lot of ways addresses the type of things that Cameron would mention about being a little over the top and ridiculous and kind of taking him out of it. This entire article kind of talks about how MGS 1, 2, and 3 sort of their hyper-reality, which for those of you that don't know, hyper-reality is almost like it's almost like in the same school of thought as like absurdism and surrealism, where it's like so real about everything that like the 5% that's fucking crazy over the top fantasy kind of gets blended in. So this article kind of talks about how Kojima's really, really good at blending in that kind of insane shit into the game as to make it not as jarring. But the term hyperreality was coined by postmodern theorist Jean Baudrillard. I don't know. In his
Is it French?
Yeah, in his piece Simulacra and Simulations, and he said, quote, "In the postmodern world, the boundary between simulation and reality implodes, and with this, the very experience and ground of, quote, the real disappears. It becomes the hyper real." So, I mean, it's a very common thing now. Like if you see something like Beasts of the Southern Wild or anything like that, or fucking Inception, 100%, like just that kind of pushing reality so much as to be kind of funny, but not at the same time. So I don't know, but it's a good article. So you guys should also check that out. And I guess to give a shout out over to Rob, I don't guess, I know. You guys should go to MetalGearSolid.net and check out. There's a bunch of cool analysis of the entire trilogy of Metal Gear Solid 1, 2, and 3 on there. But yeah, and that also kind of I don't know if you guys are aware of this. I can't remember if it kind of gets retrofitted in 4 or not, but I know in a lot of promotional work and a lot of interviews and stuff, Kojima Productions refers to Metal Gear Solid 1, 2, and 3 as meme, gene, and scene, spelling MGS conveniently. But Metal Gear Solid 1 is meme, so it's like the passing down. Metal Gear Solid 1 is gene, which is all about just the genetic stuff, which if you guys remember, they fixate like a motherfucker on that in like the last hour of the game. 2 is all about memes and just kind of like the things that we pass down through sort of thought artifacts. And then 3 is supposed to be scene, which is like we're actually on the scene, like seeing things as they happen and kind of ingesting them in real time. And so that's kind of how the 3 games are kind of split up, which I thought was interesting. In MGS3, we see the birth not only of the codename Snake, but we see sort of the birth of the 3 sons of Big Boss, both through the metaphorical white snakes in the field and also in the end roll when we see the credits and the timeline.
Les enfants terribles.
Yeah, and we also get to see the birth of the bandana, because that's the boss's bandana, which forever makes me sad when I see the bandana on Snake. Yeah, I mean, it's sort of the birth of a lot of things. Cardboard box. I mean, fucking everything about the series kind of starts in MGS3, which is neat. So, did you guys have any favorite characters from your time playing MGS3? Any standouts?
Sigint.
Oh no, Sam.
Why would
Gotta-
you?
gotta-
Oh no.
Oh
Black Lives
no.
Yeah, dude.
Black Lives
Black
Matter.
Lives Matter.
No,
Wait a minute, but
I honestly-
he's like a weapon manufacturer.
yeah, for real. No, for real. Don't worry about it. I liked the end quite a bit. Just he didn't have a lot of stuff to do or say until the battle, and like the entire battle just kind of the entire battle reeked of his character. Like the battle was the end's character, I feel like. And I really liked that a lot. And I'm pleased that I actually did the battle this time around.
Yeah, I'm happy about that too. I literally did not have any expectations that you were actually going to do it, so I was pleasantly surprised when you did.
Wow. Way to have faith.
Isaac, do you have any standout favorite characters or moments?
I kind of liked the whole story between the Sorrow and Boss and all that crazy stuff happening, and just I guess Sorrow's fight, if you will. I mean, it wasn't my favorite boss fight, but it was just very introspective, if you will.
Isaac's a real sad boy.
Yes.
Sadboy.jpg.
It's just a picture of Isaac.
Just the glossiest JPEG of Isaac being real sad.
Is it real sad?
Mm-hmm.
No,
The gloss
no.
is too harsh, though. You can't even see it.
Too many pixels in this gloss. I do like the
Also-
end. I'm not gonna lie. Reflecting on Sam's. Sorry, guys, for reflecting on Sam's remarks. I really liked that battle. Not gonna lie, a lot, like a lot.
It was good. It was good.
I was gonna say, speaking of a lot, also Ocelot.
Oh my gosh!
Wow.
That was awful.
ashamed of you, Sam.
I reached for that one, but Ocelot was very good in this game, and I wish he was that animated in the other games.
Yeah, that's true.
I like
But he-
Ocelot.
I do too. Does he do the cat call at all in 5?
No.
Like there,
I think he does the
God.
hand stuff. I think he like juts his hands out in the like not the finger guns, but like the partial. I think he does it like once maybe. But I was really pissed he didn't spin any fucking guns in 5.
Yeah.
Yeah, not even a little bit.
I will say
Maybe that was part of the cut content.
they ran out of budget to hire the guy who juggled the guns for mocap.
It was just like an entire hour of Ocelot juggling guns and
telling you
missed it.
cool
They missed
shit
the
from the
mark.
story.
Yep.
I like to think that all of the cut content from 5 is just Ocelot monologuing about shit that you wanted to know about while flipping guns. But
It's like the which close your ears, Isaac. But it's like the last unplug them.
Oh shoot.
It's like that last bit of Metal Gear Solid 4, except with just Ocelot juggling guns.
instead of fighting another old man.
Yeah, for real.
I'm slowly sliding my headphones back down.
All right, what's up,
Okay,
Isaac?
Hey.
you're back. It's fine. Everything's good.
It's okay. The bad man is gone.
Thank you. Alessio, did
yeah.
you have any favorites?
Dude, I'm just like the biggest like stalwart
like all of it.
fan of the boss. Like, I love the boss.
You're in
She's
love.
awesome. Well, and it's not even. I don't know. It's not even like waifu bullshit shenanigans. Like, I straight up, I think she's a really fucking good character, and I think that you don't see characters in games that have conflicting goals very often. I mean, I think, well, and these are all fucking voiced by Troy Baker, but I think that Booker DeWitt has an interesting Booker DeWitt in BioShock Infinite. Spoiler alert, has an interesting sort of dilemma about midway through the game where you kind of realize that you're the shitty person in the game. And so I think he is interesting, but again, the gameplay, it's so hard to make the player character somebody who is shitty because the only memories that we have of that character is when we're playing them. And so most of the time games get really cheap about that, and they're like, you should feel bad because in the past you were a bad man, and you're like, well, but I wasn't playing that character when that happened.
There's
so
a lot of there's a lot of weird stuff around that. Like if you play Red Dead Redemption with John Marston, it's really weird like that because the story kind of counteracts. It kind of does it in the opposite way. The story kind of counteracts what you're trying to do in the game.
Yeah. Well, and that's what usually ends up happening because they're like, you play as a terrible person. Like kind of like, so the only time that it happens really well, I think, is Spec Ops. Spec Ops The Line.
Yeah.
Because you fucking did the bad thing. And so it works really well there, but I think all these other games try to be like, oh, well, 20 years before the events of the game, you were a terrible person. And it's like, what the fuck? Like, there was no player urgency. Like, I wasn't the one who did that thing. So I think that MGS3 does a really good job of, and I think it's even better that we're not the character who is in the dilemma. Because in MGS3, we just have to fucking spectate. We have to spectate and we have to execute somebody who we don't know anything about realistically, which is awesome because Snake not knowing anything about her personal life is a perfect mirror for us to be told about her personal life. So I think they do a really, really good job of like making it make sense that we're being told the things that we're being told in MGS3. And I think they do a great job because by the time we as players and Snake as character do find out more about this woman, it's too late to do anything about it and we still have to put her down. So it's super powerful, man. I think it's really good. I think it's honestly, I think that the ending of MGS3 might be like the pinnacle of Kojima's game directing, like period. Like I don't think he ever gets close to this again. As far as like immersion and player urgency and stuff like that. I think he does a good job of like choreographing stuff and making shit look cool. But I think this is the only time I've felt bad in Metal Gear.
That's kind of what my problem with 4 is. If I were to pick out a problem with it, not to go too far into it, but it's kind of like I feel like everything is complicated for the sake of it, and then by the end of it, they just sit you down and kind of explain, like mansplain everything to you. Just like, okay, you little shit, I'm gonna tell you a story, and then you're stuck there listening to like 4 hours worth of bullshit.
It's such a weird fucking whiplash too, because it's almost like, so they were like 2 is too crazy, and then 3 came out, and everybody's like 3 is one of the best games ever made, but it's not crazy enough. And then Kojima was like, well, let's just go crazy again. And they're like,
motherfucker, we're just gonna double down on the crazy this time.
Well, and then he got crazy, and then they were just like, dog, you're too crazy. Like, tone it down. Like, there's a weird like up and down that is gonna happen with the rest of the series.
Yeah. Isaac, I think you're in for a treat with 4.
Oh, I can't wait.
Yeah. So Isaac, half the shit that you were telling us whenever you do the fumbling in the dark, that's just what 4 is.
Oh
yeah,
so
great.
Like literally, like if when we get there, literally anything you say will probably be correct. So.
Yeah, just series wide. Like it doesn't even matter anymore.
Don't hold your breath because I can surprise you.
Because everything ties together. But
I'll give you one spoiler, Isaac. In the opening moments of the game, Solid Snake is wearing an Assassin's Creed outfit.
Yep.
Wait, what? Really?
Yeah, because fuck
weird.
you. That's why.
Yeah, just because you know you want it, you just don't know that you want it.
That's hilarious.
But
wow.
yeah, it's weird.
Which kind of like I think that's why I don't think 3's story can really be topped, because it's just kind of like that right amount of like. It's just like you were saying, is like if everything's kind of over the top, the insanity kind of blends in, which is why, you have this like super weird like exaggerated Cold War story, but that's also why fighting a series of X-Men isn't that crazy.
Yeah, it feels like taking out the trash in the Metal Gear universe. Like,
yeah, it's kind of like, yeah, well, this is normal then.
yeah, this is the new normal.
And I love that. It's not, I wouldn't say it's simple. There's a lot of stuff to kind of pay attention to and like notice, but I think it's refreshing, I guess. If you're looking at the entire series and you come to 3, you're just kind of like, wow, that's just kind of like a breath of fresh air as far as the way it's told and all that stuff. And I think a lot of it has to do with some of the stuff we've talked about, but I also think a lot of it has to do with the fact that, yeah, this is the game that kind of started the whole thing. So even though there's a bunch of callbacks and things to the previous series, you don't have to know about it to
Right.
understand it. And yeah, that's kind of what I love about it.
Have you guys played
Go
the
ahead.
series in chronological order instead of release order?
Yeah, I did that one summer.
How was that?
I actually, let me think. I did not play 3 all the way through actually that summer. So it was actually as soon as I moved to Missouri, or right before I moved to Missouri, I think. So Kristen had moved to Missouri, and I was still in Alabama for about 3 months, and so I needed something to do with my spare time. So I played through it in chronological order. So I played 3 first, and I remember I got pretty far in it, and then for whatever reason, I was like, fuck it, I'm going to move on to Peace Walker, and I just read like the wiki on Portable Ops because I didn't have a way to play it at the time. I was just like foaming at the mouth to play Peace Walker because I hadn't played it before, so I was just like, oh, fuck yeah. But yeah, it's interesting to play through it in chronological order. It feels really weird to do it that way because the games are so kind of like it's almost like you start midway through the technology and then you like jump to the worst that the technology gets and then you slowly climb back out of that hole throughout the rest of the series.
Yeah.
So it was interesting. Now that 5 is out, I think it might be interesting to play through it in chronological order again. But
I don't know if I'd be able to go from playing 5 to then playing Metal Gear 1.
Yeah.
It's just hard fucking like your neck snaps. It's such a quick like. But yeah, it's interesting from a plot perspective. I think it almost, to be honest, I feel like I'd almost rather just like watch the cutscenes stitched together in chronological order than
that
play
would
the
be cool.
games because
Yeah.
the play is just kind of weird and all over the place. But yeah, so there was one other question I was going to ask you guys earlier, and I'm trying to recall it. Yeah, I don't know. I think for me, I think this MGS3 is, so the whole fucking series is very handholdy to some extent. You know what I mean? Like, if you skip a codec call, you'll get called again, and like there are 30 people that have to tell you to press triangle to climb a ladder. Like, I mean, it's a pretty handholdy series. And then by the time you get to the end of the games, with pretty much all of them, they're like, well, we're gonna spoon feed you the plot in case you missed it. But I think in terms of the series as a whole, I think 3 and no, I mean, Peace Walker doesn't really even have a whole lot of, I mean, it's got a lot of great story, but a lot of it is like cassette tapes. So I would say 3 is probably the less handholdy of the franchise besides the originals, which don't really have a story. But yeah, so I don't know. I thought that was interesting. Did you guys feel like you were less on a leash than you were in 1 and 2, other than the environment, which are obvious reasons? But
I feel like I was. It's a lot of. It's almost like a mechanic at this point that in Metal Gear, like something happens and you get it explained to you later. And I didn't.
it's a
feel that
feature.
way.
It's like back
Yeah,
of
it's
the
just a
back of the
feature.
box.
It's like it's a box quote. It's like game is explained as you play. Press triangle to explain game. But but I didn't feel that way in 3. Because we touched on this like throughout the episodes. It was kind of just like, oh hey, and then this happened. But if you weren't listening or paying attention or watching or listening to a codec or talking to somebody, you missed it. You know, it was the same thing with like Ocelot being the boss and Sorrow's kid. It's just like they could have at any point in that game just been like, oh hey, by the way, Ocelot is the boss's son and also the Sorrow is Ghost Dad. But they never really did that. They just kind of dropped little hints and they led you to kind of figure it out yourself. And I love that. about it.
Yeah, it's good. It's like it's the closest Kojima can get to like environmental storytelling, I feel like.
Yeah, or closest he gets to subtlety.
Yeah.
So it was good. Isaac, do you have any expectations for future games in the series other than us telling you that it's going to go off the rails?
Future games, as in like 4 and
like
5.
the games that are coming next. Well,
Oh.
Peace Walker.
Oh.
So I'm gonna run it here. I'll run it through Isaac for you so that you know what is going on. So, Metal Gear 1 and 2 obviously take place between 3 and 1 of Solid.
Yeah.
Snake's Revenge is not canon at all. Peace Walker, Portable Ops. Portable Ops takes place not too long after 3, and you still play as Big Boss. Peace Walker takes place almost directly after Portable Ops, which a lot of people are still unsure as to whether or not Portable Ops is even canon. Then after Peace Walker, and you play as Big Boss in Peace Walker. And then after Peace Walker, Ground Zeroes and the Phantom Pain come, and you're Big Boss still. And then we go through all the games that we've already played.
Mm-hmm.
And then 4 is Solid Snake, and sort of the end of Solid Snake's sort of story arc. So in a nutshell, that's kind of what. And then Metal Gear Rising technically takes place way after 4, but I'm relatively certain it's not canon, but it might be.
God, I hope it is.
And you play as Raiden in Rising, which Rising had a really weird development cycle too, because it started out as Metal Gear Solid Rising, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
And it was supposed to be like it was supposed to be a stealth game, and you were playing as Raiden rescuing Olga's child from the Patriots.
Which I would have fucking... Which
Yeah,
should have been
it
the
would have
thing.
been fucking
Should have
great.
been what it was.
Yeah, but instead what ended up happening was it was in development hell for like a while, and then eventually Konami and Kojima Productions were like, fuck it, and Platinum, the people that did Bayonetta, and like, which is also part of the same people from Clover that did like Okami and Beautiful Joe and Devil May Cry and shit. They ended up doing Metal Gear Rising, so it's a Platinum game.
Revengeance.
Yeah, it's Metal Gear Rising Revengeance is the full title of the game.
In Raiden's very poor disguise in Mexico. Jesus.
Yeah, and there's like little to no stealth elements anymore, other than like fan service callbacks, and it's just fucking hack and slash, insane speed metal.
Yep.
It's wonderful. It's wonderful. It's a great game, but I mean that with no sarcasm. It's legitimately a great game, but the plot is bullshit. But the game is fun. It's like I feel like it's the video game equivalent of Crank, the movie with Jason Statham.
Nice. I'm looking forward to it now.
Yeah, it's fun. But yeah, so that's kind of the trajectory for the rest of the franchise, Isaac. So I mean, do you have any, now that you've kind of gotten to play around in these like open world environments and stuff like that, I mean, do you have any expectations for 4? Have you seen 4 played?
I've actually not seen 4 played at all. I don't know. I don't think I have. I kind of held off.
Good.
Okay.
I mean, it'll be a little while before we get to 4, just because there are sort of these little side branches that we need to go down as far as, because we're doing chronological release order, not chronological gameplay, for those of you at home that are confused as to why the fuck we're playing 3 now. But
so wait, what is Peace Walker like? Because that one is a mystery to me.
yeah, so Peace Walker was supposed to be, so Kojima was making Peace Walker on the PSP, and it was kind of Konami's response to like Monster Hunter, which is funny because there's like a weird Monster Hunter Easter egg in the game. But Kojima, while working on Peace Walker, it was originally supposed to be Metal Gear Solid 5, and essentially Konami was like, you can't fucking name a PSP game the 5th entry in this game series, and he was like, oh. And so they called it Peace Walker.
He was like,
They called it Peace Walker, and like so the game, it's really cool. So Ashley Wood, his artwork is kind of like motion comics, kind of like the motion graphic novels that we already covered on the show.
Mm-hmm.
But his artwork is the cutscenes. and essentially it's still kind of following Big Boss. And it's made to be played in kind of small bursts because like each mission is kind of like a standalone like world, like a little game. Like you kind of end up in the space, you do the thing, and then you leave and you go back to your base. And so it's made to be kind of played in small bursts, but there's a ton of fucking great story in it. It's got a ton of base building, which is so much fun. And you do a lot of like soldier recruitment and building and developing items to use in the field, and it's really fun, man. It literally is like Metal Gear Monster Hunter, I feel like.
Here's a question for you.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think that if it was called Metal Gear Solid 5 that it would have sold more?
I don't, because I believe that it was one of the last games to come out on the PSP. So I feel like it was already kind of like a lot of people played it, but like nowhere near as many people as should have, because the PSP was like, I think the PSP like officially was discontinued and like not supported after like 6 months after Peace Walker came out.
Wow.
Which is crazy if you play the HD collection. I mean, they smoothed it up and made it look a little prettier, but it actually looks pretty fucking good for a PSP game. So, I don't know. Apparently on the PSP hardware, so if you buy it on the Vita, you're playing the PSP version, not the HD remake. Or not remake, but like HD remaster. Peace Walker apparently only runs at like 15 frames a second on the PSP.
Oh gosh.
Yeah, so just FYI, but it runs at a full 30, I think 30 or 60 on the PS3. So,
Yeah.
but yeah,
Well, yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Hear a lot of good things about 4, if not about the story, about the gameplay.
The gameplay's phenomenal.
And then 5, I hear from you guys, is poo-poo. But we'll see what happens.
5 has its moments. It's
Yeah.
fun. 5 is so 5 is almost built like Peace Walker, where they're both kind of just like pick up and play, kind of small bursts, kind of pick a mission, go from your base to the place, and then do the
Yeah.
thing, and then leave. But it's a little bit more involved in 5, which I felt like it could have used a lot of ease of use considerations, because I don't want to watch 20 fucking minutes of helicopter animations every time I want to do anything.
Yeah.
But that's why you press start and you escape back to your base after you save every time. So skip it. Okay. But yeah, so as you can tell, we're kind of petering out, so we should probably end the episode.
Well, can I ask one quick character question?
Yeah, absolutely. Go ahead.
Am I the only person that wasn't really into Eva as a character?
I remember as an adolescent boy playing this game that I was the trick with Eva worked with me, which is like, oh, sex appeal, like you don't notice she's a spy, blah 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 blah. So it worked for me, but I think in replaying it, I still love Eva as a character. I think she's cool. But for me, it's like, I think playing it for the show in the bursts that we play it in, it kind of works less because you don't really have time to build a connection, I guess.
Yeah, I agree. She's kind of like an afterthought. I didn't really think of her that, I don't know.
Yeah,
She was just kind of...
To me, it
Yeah.
felt like she was trying to flirt really hard with Snake and that none of it was working because of how much time between gameplay sessions that would take. But I know that in the narrative, he's supposed to be like falling in love with her or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it was weird to me because she was one of the few people that I never called on the codec because like I forgot about her until she showed up again.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I don't know. It just seemed like, I guess that might be it, but it just seemed like she was just kind of there for most of it. And like there was no real payoff to her character until the end of the game. Whereas everybody else just kind of felt like they should have been there.
Mm-hmm. I get that. Well, cool. Do you guys have any final thoughts for the lovely folks at home?
I recommend this game.
You heard it here, folks. It's got the coveted Lim stamp of approval.
The official Isaac Lim seal.
All right. I think I might replay the boss fight.
Do you have a save from there?
I think I do. About halfway through, I started creating new saves because I was like, maybe I'll, replay some of these missions or some of these fights or whatever.
Second
Nice.
So I might.
You
I
should do
just might.
You should
And
do
then-
it, and then you should report back to us with how you felt in retrospect.
And then this time I won't shoot her. See how that feels.
See how it feels. Try that on. Try that on for size, kid. Nice. You got any final thoughts, Sam?
Great game. Would play again. One of the best endings in video games. Period. 30 cats out of hamburger.
I was totally about to ask you how many cat hairs out of pizza you'd give it. So good job. Yeah. So here lies a true patriot.
Yep.
No one will ever know of what she has done. So
Dick gun rip.
yeah, dick gun rip. But actually, if you replay the game and you start a new game plus, you get the dick gun,
Yep, you get the dick gun.
and that shit's got
I just-
infinite ammo.
I just I just quietly snuck in references to, because I remember I brought it up on the first episode of the season, and I just quietly brought up references to it as
Throughout.
the series went on, and nobody ever said anything about it.
Well, likewise too,
Never brought
I'd like to give a big thank you for reminding me, Sam. I'd like to give a big thanks to all of the guests that we had on this season. It was
Yes.
wonderful.
Cole Ross, Rob Santos, Zach DeTrocchio, Nikki Z in the Place to Be, Nick Shaw, Nick Ziegler,
TJ Wark,
TJ Wark,
Cameron Hill.
Cameron Hill.
Cam Dog.
We had some good guests. Are we forgetting anybody? Is that everybody?
I hope
We got
not.
everybody.
Yeah.
I hope we don't. I
the
don't wanna
person
make
who we
anybody
forget.
upset.
The person who we forgot. I apologize deeply.
Whoever we forgot, we think that you did the best job, and we thank you the most. But
Obviously.
I think we got everybody. So.
Yeah.
That's so bad.
Well, so I will say that as the show progresses, we will. I think the next few episodes will not have any guests, but we very likely will. I believe that Cole put in his hat saying he wanted to be on the season of MGS4, and I know that obviously Zach is always welcome back. And we wanted to get a couple new people on. Nick Freda, if you're listening to this shit, I just need you to know that I need to hear your sweet voice, number one. And number two, I would like for you to join us. And we'll invest some time. Hopefully it will not require us to take a break between seasons, but we will invest some time to lock down some good quality guests intermixed with friends of the show. So it'll be good.
I also want to give a real special thank you to Danielle for making Isaac real sad.
Yep.
I'm still well.
Well,
If you
technically,
can't
we
tell-
made Isaac real sad.
Well, we made Isaac real sad. She made you real sad, and then we made Isaac real sad.
I'm
I
still
know
real
Nobody
sad.
sad.
made,
That's the
and nobody made me real sad because I didn't experience any of the prank. So I thank you. I'm real happy about that. So shout out to Danielle for not making me sad.
Thanks, Danielle.
Thanks,
A
Danielle.
lot.
You will forever be known as the member of the Cobra unit known as the Prank.
The prank.
The prank. Did she explode?
Yeah, and it's actually confetti.
Oh,
Yep. Surprise. And then she's not dead.
it's just a
Yes.
prank.
Actually,
She's fine.
she's
and
actually cool. It's just a prank. Ha!
Aw.
Told you. It's just a
Well.
prank, bro. It's just a prank, bro.
Well, sweet. So just running through all the things we've got to touch on. This podcast is a part of the Geek Time Network. We are available at geekti.me, where you can check out all of the other podcasts and video content and all that jazz. Be sure to go to patreon.com/geektimenetwork. $5 a month gets you access to episodes a day early, blog posts, which will eventually start, and a bunch of other sponsor content like deleted scenes and stuff like that. So it's a single tier, $5. Gets you access to the Slack as well, where you can do a word battle with Cameron Hill. David Yang, I just want everybody to know, David Yang, who had choice words for Cameron last episode, donated money and is now actively in the same chat room as Cameron. So
We're just waiting for the.
yeah.
All we're doing is waiting for the explosion.
They're like two fucking cats just staring at each other and walking in circles. So I'm sure they're not,
waiting
but
for one to make a move.
yeah, that's
Somebody's
how I
gonna
feel.
like bat the other one on the head, and then they're just gonna fucking go for it.
Yeah. So and then Sam's got to be ready with the water hose to calm him down.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Or the Giphy.
yeah, with the Giphy. But yeah, we now have a Giphy. So if you're like me, you should just pay $5 to hop in there and type in /Giphy whatever fucking text you want, because it's a ton of fun.
There's no age rating on it, so you could probably type in /Giphy boobs and you'll see some boobs.
It's true.
Probably. I don't know. Maybe. I haven't
but,
tried it.
Well, guaranteed it will happen soon. So,
Yep.
But yeah, you can also check us out on SoundCloud as Geek Time Network, and we're also on Twitter and Facebook and everything as Geek Time Network if you search it. However, on Facebook it is Geek Time Pod on the URL.
Well, actually, if you type in Geek Time Network as the URL, it redirects to Geek Time Pod.
Oh, that's right. So yeah, we're Geek Time Network everywhere. So search that shit, yo Snake, search that shit. Anyway,
Hey, Snake, search that shit.
but yeah, that's it. I'd like to thank Isaac and Sam for taking the time to be on the episode. And
Hey.
yeah,
Sorry, I don't know what that was.
I'm fine with that. Isaac, what can everybody at home remember to tweet you at?
I'm a tweeter at the Weeder,
Tweeter at
and the Weeder at the Meter.
Whoa.
What?
So Isaac is at doesn't have a twit. Sam is
What
at
was
Sam
that?
DPS, and I am at AC Summerfield. Sorry, about
I
that.
feel like I did
Just wanna-
something.
Wow, okay. I just want to throw this out there. Isaac has 3 more followers.
What?
We're getting close.
he's
We're
got
getting close.
Matthew Case,
CK.
Brandon J. Motes, and our good pal David Yang
Oh shit, David Yang.
on
Wow.
that Twitter tip.
All right, I have.
So-
Yeah,
so
um,
he's got 44.
yeah.
Party fire.
We
Party
need
far.
50 for another tweet.
Guys, I apologize if I'm not active enough.
Invite your friends and family so that
Yeah.
Isaac will generate more tweets.
Yes,
I've-
invite friends and family.
I feel bad. These are
Well,
my family.
Isaac, aka the meter beater, feeder treater, whatever you were saying earlier. What can people that are actively listening to this show, and some people who are passively listening to the show, not forget to do?
Like me.
And a me. Well, you know when you shoot the doot and the poop and the scoots, you don't know what you're gonna get. So you better pop the block and stop the rock and adjust the box and watch the rocks.
That might be my favorite one yet. Thank you, Isaac. And that's our show. Godspeed.
Fuck!
Black Amber.
Just a buck.